Okay. Shalom, everybody online. I hope everybody is doing Tawab this Monday evening. Like we always start off, man, these weekends fly by, man. You look up, it's Saturday, it's Shabbat. 5 minutes later, it's like 7 p.m. on Monday, bro. Feels like that gap after Sabbath to Monday is like out of this world. But no complaints here. We're getting this word in. And hope everybody, isbhpk, Houston, Rochester, Virginia, El Cobb teaching out in Guatemala, his students that are scattered throughout, Cali, Georgia, the East Coast. Hope everybody's doing well today. Today, the title of the class is called "If You're Afraid to Lose, You'll Still Lose." Yeah.
It's the truth, though.
Listen, it is the complete truth.
It's not funny, but
it's really funny because this is how the Most High operates.
Yeah.
If whatever you're afraid of the most, whatever you're running from, whatever brings you the most fear and dread, it's coming. And the more you run from your battle, the more you allow doubt, fear of loss, insecurities to dictate your life, you're going to still lose it anyway, because the Most High is trying to work on you and develop you. But the point of the class is to teach Israel how to confront their fears, to teach Israel how to confront their insecurities, their self-loathing, their self-hatred, the parts of them that make them feel extremely uncomfortable and sad and weak. Really, it's helping to teach Israel how to face their vulnerabilities.
People say they want to be healed. Well, healed from what? These are the issues people got to be healed from.
Shoot. Well, that's the problem. What Israel wants to do, we always talk about bench press Israelites. Israel wants to focus on their strengths. Israel wants to focus on the things they do well.
Exactly.
And they don't want to deal with those sore spots, those vulnerable spots, those fleshy parts of the body that really bring out that discomfort and that weakness. We're going to go into why it's so important to confront that fear and to face that fear and all those things that we're afraid of facing in ourselves. So, the first verse we're going to go into today is Proverbs chapter 29 and 25, because what happens is, in order to truly put your house together as a man, in order to sit back here and be the best parent you can be, in order to sit back here and be the best wife you can be, all of these fears and vulnerabilities and insecurities have to be faced if we expect to grow in our specific arenas of weakness. So, we're going to start off with Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 25. Let's get this rolling.
Got it. Proverbs 29 verse 25.
Now we need that 1828 ready, because we're going to be kind of explaining these things. Read that, sir.
God. The fear of man bringeth a snare.
The fear of man. We're talking about the fear that's inside of a man. The fear that's inside of a man, the fear of man bringeth a snare. Let's get snare in the 1828 dictionary.
Snare.
Hold on one second. I'm talking it, but I got to get there too. And, so be patient with me. Snare. Let's do it. I want number one too.
Snare. An instrument for catching animals, particularly fowls, by the leg.
Mm-hmm.
It consists of a cord or string with slip knots, in which the leg is entangled. A snare is not a net.
So, the purpose of a snare dealing with an animal is to catch it by the leg and not allow it to what? Not allow it to go. So I don't know if you ever seen those animal shows where they're trying to sit back here and catch these animals, and they create these snares, and these animals are caught by whatever trap they got, and they're trying to fly around and move around, and then by the time in the morning they get up, they're exhausted. They've been moving around all night trying to get out of this situation, and either a predator kills them or the actual one who set the net kills them, sets the trap, kills them. And by the time they catch them, they kill them, obviously. But if you're looking at a snare in terms of mankind, that net or that snare or that thing that wraps upon a person's leg is what? It's your insecurity. It's your fear. It's the part of you that's afraid to lose. That's afraid to be vulnerable. That's afraid to grow. That's afraid to take a stand for what's right and accept the loss in your life. A lot of times when a man is trying to put a house in order, what's the greatest thing he faces when a man's trying to put a house in order?
Opposition.
Yeah, but it's not opposition.
Not having a house.
It's when you stand up for what's right. There ain't nobody left in the house to stand up for. That's the fear. It's how keeping it real goes wrong.
Yeah.
You sit back and you want to pull Bible verse, you want to stand up for what's right, and then there's a real risk that by standing up for what's right, there's going to be some collateral damage in the situation. That's really what a person deals with. So the thing is, if you don't face that fear, if you don't stand up for what's right and take the risk of loss, then what's going to happen to you in your life? The rest of your life is you're going to be in a snare. You're going to be in a trap, and you're going to be unable to move away from that position. Just like that animal is. So you're sitting back here because you're afraid you're going to be in that same bird trap, that bird snare for 30 years. 20, 30 years in this suspended animation, wondering why I don't feel like I'm growing. So either you're going to take the risk of losing what you appreciate and love, or you're going to lose your life anyway. Being in the snare of your own fears.
Yep.
Everybody wants to talk about Esau this, the white man this, and America and Biden and Trump. All these things are true scenarios, they're true gripes. Esau is the devil that the Bible speaks of. But our greatest enemy is the same height as you are, the same width as you are, talks the same as you, has the same wit and humor as you. It's just you are your worst enemy. We are our worst enemy. And our worst enemy is the fear and insecurity that dominates us. Okay?
God.
So, read it from the top again.
God. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 25. The fear of a man, the fear of man.
The fear of man. It's not about I'm scared of OJ or I'm scared of this Debo looking dude.
I'm scared of OJ. Only Edomites in Westwood was scared of OJ. Listen, Esau in Westwood and UCLA, they were so scared of Esau. Brentwood, oh my God. But keep going. I'm sorry.
The fear of man is talking about the natural, internal fear. The idea that we don't want to face, the things we don't want to face.
How many of us are afraid of just rejection in general?
Yeah.
How many of us are afraid of rejection with the word that we teach?
Yeah.
It's a hard profession to do. Your job is to teach the Bible and recruit Israel. And you're afraid of people hating on you.
Listen, we're professional rejects because they're going to reject you. There's no such thing as you gather all the men together and everybody's just, thank you for the word. The word, I'm so happy in Jesus. And this is the best thing that ever happened to me. This is
Thank you for giving me this
yes,
wisdom.
thank you for every correction you ever gave me because now I see the light of God. That doesn't happen now.
Doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen. You're gonna get collateral damage. People being offended at your presence. People being upset at you that you stood up for the scriptures, and now you have to lose something close to your heart because you stood up for Christ.
And that's the thing. The challenge of standing up for Christ is also having to face those fears inside of us.
Yeah.
That keep us from growing in our life.
Yeah.
Listen, I can't count on my hand how many Israelites that come in this knowledge have great work ethic, loving brothers, loving sisters, but they wrestle with self-hatred, self-condemnation. They sit back here and they look in the mirror and they hate what they see in the mirror. It's greater than you think. But then if I can't get past the issues I have in myself, how can I truly love and assist and be there for the people that are around me? If I am afraid to lose, because losing, you'll be surprised how many people look at losing as a direct reflection of who they are as a man or a woman.
And that's a real statement. Yeah, slow it down.
I know
you
that.
gotta chop and screw that, bro. Yes.
Bro. You can't now.
Lose.
You don't want to lose. No, what I'm saying is a lot of our people's self-esteem is based on people accepting them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people's self-esteem is based on people liking them. A lot of our people's self-esteem is based on people wanting to be with them and wanting to be accepted of them, but the very nature. Or a lot of our people, their self-esteem is based on feeling needed.
Yeah, I have to
be loved and needed.
But it's a human need.
But it's a human need, but it's a weakness in this arena. Because in order to sit back here and help your people, you have to tell them the truth. And when you tell a person the truth, you're risking losing the very person that you love.
And you're training them not to need you.
Huh?
Because over time, the goal is to wean people off of you, because the goal is for them to be into Christ. So we're just a gate. You come through the gate, it's an entrance, and then from there, you're supposed to go meet the big guy.
And if my happiness and how I am as a man is based upon people appreciating me and loving me, then that's my snare.
There you go.
And I'm going to be limited to grow as an individual in Christ if I'm walking around here seeking the acceptance of so many different people in my life. And this is how fear of loss, fear of being hated, fear of being rejected, fear of not being needed, fear of losing can be a snare to a person's life. Okay? So, read it from the top again.
God. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 25.
Proverbs 29 and 25.
God. The fear of man bringeth a snare.
The fear of man bringeth a snare. We're taking our time, and as we go in class, we're going to explain continually the different effects of that fear, the different types of fear people have in themselves. Okay? Some people just cannot function being alone. And if I can't function being alone, sometimes the Most High is going to force you to be alone for a period of time. And you have to find joy and happiness in serving the Most High, even though you're in a situation where your fears are being exposed. Okay? Did you have your hand up or you just stretch it?
No, yeah.
Just double check it. Okay, read on.
God. But whoso putteth his trust in the Most High shall be saved.
But the only solution to being crippled by the snare of fear is truly making sure your trust is in the Most High and your motivations are in its purest form towards the Most High. Let's keep going. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 24, verse 17 and verse 18.
Isaiah chapter 24, verse 17.
So listen, this chapter is obviously talking about the curse of Israel and the fall of Israel. Now, I would imagine it's dealing with the fall of Israel in regards to, Babylon taking Israel over. But when the verse is explaining how we fall, that's what I want to, or how a person falls is what I want to kind of explain and elaborate a little more. So I'm just pulling something out of a greater chapter understanding. Okay? So let's keep going.
Isaiah chapter 24, verse 17. Fear and the pit and the snare are upon thee.
So he's telling you what happens and how fear trickles down into being in a pit. And then how that pit ends up there ends up being snares in a pit. Because how many of us, once again, I'm not trying to get specific with individuals, but rhetorically, have had fear dominate them, the fear of loss. And how the fear of loss in a household has put you in a spiritual pit that you can't get out of. When I think of falling in pits, I think of like an apocalypto when you fall in these big ass pits and they have these bamboo that's sharpened, and then you fall in this pit and you're injured and you're wounded and you can't get out. And even if you get out of the damn pit or out of the bamboo that hurts you, you can't climb up. It's so deep. You can't get out. So you're withering away in your life because fear got you running in the first place.
And the issue with the fear is in the pit and the snare, that when you're in the snare you can't heal.
Done.
Because you're still wounded.
Done.
And a wounded spirit, who can bear? So when a person has this fear, I'm caught in this pit. I'm sitting here stuck, and I'm injured.
And now it talks about I'm in a snare in the pit. So I'm in a snare in a damn pit.
It's a double battle.
Con. But how many people have these issues in their life, these ruts that just can't get out of?
That's where we're at.
That's what a rut is. It's a pit. Another word for a rut or a funk is a pit.
Yeah.
In a position you just can't get out of.
Huh?
You go, the harder you work, the harder you try, you just keep sliding in this mud. Then it starts to rain.
Yeah.
And then now you're really up shit's creek.
Exactly.
Like Hamburger Hill.
Or Hamburger Hill. I keep thinking about that apocalypto when that water kept rising in that damn pit. It's like, bro, I am high key about to die in this pit. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
But this is how, when you're dealing with self-esteem issues, that's what happens too. Whether it's self-esteem issues, insecurities, self-hatred, afraid to lose. How many of us are sitting back here knowing that you have to teach your woman and stand up for what's right and establish the right principles in your home, but you also know that high key she ain't listening and she really ain't feeling what you're saying. So now you're in this damn enigma, wrapped into a puzzle,
Yeah.
wrapped into a mystery.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell am I going to get this person to see the light?
Yeah.
Then, how consistent am I going to be in teaching this word and showing her right from wrong? And then
will it work if you do it?
And then if I keep doing it, and I keep showing this sister right from wrong, and this person doesn't want to do it, then what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Am I going to sit back here and just live in hell? In marriage Bible hell? Or we're just sitting back here working on courtesy? We're going to deal with courtesy since nobody wants to read the fucking Bible in the house.
We're not courteous enough.
And considerate.
Yeah.
We're going to deal with courtesy and consideration, or are we going to be able to sit back here and deal in a properly ordered house? And then am I willing to lose what I've invested into a person for righteousness' sake if a person chooses this isn't the life they want to live?
Because really
these are real questions.
Yeah.
Every one of us have to live with. And am I willing to sit back here and live in an uncomfortable house? Because when I say uncomfortable, spiritually uncomfortable. How many of us have had to make spiritual compromises because we were afraid to lose? And then think about those scenarios, and can you see how you are in a snare and a pit yourself? Or when you operate in your life with a fear of being rejected, with the fear of putting your heart out on the line and somebody rejecting you and not appreciating you and valuing you.
And what you expected happens. The fear that you expect comes.
That's what the Bible says later on in the class.
It's going to come to fruition.
And is there a willingness to accept that while we're serving the Heavenly Father, these fears and these insecurities are going to be revealed and exposed and rubbed right in front of your face? And can you face that? Can you face when you're in your home and you start trying to teach, it don't work out like you think it is, guys. You pull 2 verses, and it's like the brothers pulled these verses and they were listening. We listened. But when you pull those verses, guess what happens? You're getting questions and retaliations.
Yeah.
And they're not buying what you're selling.
Yeah.
And you got to sit back here and keep digging in more verses and finding more verses. Then you realize, damn, I'm out of verses. I had 4 or 5 verses, and she didn't listen to these damn verses.
This is gonna work. This is the one.
It's not the one. That was the one for you, not the one for her. And you're gonna sit back here and keep going to war spiritually, with the risk that, you know what, this might not work. And can I sit back here and continue to go through this process of being in order, and take the risk that you might lose, even though you're being in order?
You're waiting on the Lord.
Either you're going to take the risk of being in order and losing, or you're going to lose because you're a slave to your condition.
Yep.
When I mean a slave to your condition, you're a slave to what you're not trying to give up.
Yep.
And what you're not willing to let go.
So your situation stays where it's
And this is not a class about men leaving women. It's not about that. This is a class about standing up for what's right. And can each and every one of us be okay with the fact that we did the best we can in righteousness, and that has to be my principal motivation in everything that I do? Or am I so afraid to lose my child? Am I so afraid to lose something that I really care about that I compromise right from wrong? The more we compromise right from wrong, we put ourselves in our own personal cage of hell. Because now we're subject. Cut off your snap, man. Whoever's having that. So, y'all understand what we're saying so far?
Oh.
So read verse 17.
Isaiah chapter 24, verse 17. Fear and the pit and the snare are upon thee, O inhabitant of the earth.
to all men.
All people
men, all men
and women have to deal with this issue, this dilemma. Read on.
And it shall come to pass that he who fleeth from the noise of the fear.
Listen, when you run from your fear, when you run from your battle, and a lot of us run from our insecurities, a lot of us run from our fear of loss, a lot of us run from the fear of looking bad, being shamed, being embarrassed. A lot of us run from something. Read on.
It says, fear shall fall into the pit.
Read it from the top, verse 18.
Verse 18. And it shall come to pass that he who fleeth from the noise of the fear shall fall into the pit.
And this is what we don't understand. When we run from our battle, we fall into a greater circumstance.
A deeper situation.
We get into a worser circumstance. This is where it ties into the class. When you're afraid to lose, your situation gonna get worse because you're running from your battle.
Yeah.
When you run from your battle, you fall into a damn pit. Now you've made your situation 10 times harder. You got to get out this pit. No, I don't even want to go. Keep going.
And he that cometh up out of the midst of the pit shall be taken in the snare.
Then you get caught in the snare. Because as you're trying to get out of this pit, guess what's being revealed? Those insecurities. Those weaknesses.
As you
those
said,
vulnerabilities.
You said, I'm tired. This is what happens, bro. Say, I'm tired of the situation. I'm tired of the situation. It's always the same thing. I'm going to fight to get out of this. And then they fight to get out of it. They look up. And then that spirit that's in them pulls them back. Well, I can't.
That's the point.
I can't. Listen, I do. It's like Saw. You know, you try to free yourself, but if you free yourself, you're losing this.
And you're still a slave to those weaknesses in you.
Yeah.
So when you decide to start climbing up, now what's being revealed to you is what's inside of you. Is why you ran in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's what that snare is. He's explaining how Israel runs from their battle so many times. This is the reason why the Most High talks about the Most High is a man of what?
War.
And we explained that the Most High is a man of war means he's a man of conflict. And how the Most High all throughout the scriptures talks about being courageous, not having any fear. Because too many of us are guided by fear. Are guided by fear of the unknown, fear of loss, fear of being the bad guy. How many of us are afraid of being looked bad upon? Looked bad upon by your children? How many of us are afraid to be hated? These are real things inside of us, and because we're afraid to lose, afraid to be hated, afraid to be looked on in a negative light, this keeps us in this pit. This keeps us in this cycle of being unproductive. This fear of loss keeps us in a fear of being unproductive to the Most High and to ourselves. So now we're in this pit when we're burning and exhausting all this energy going nowhere.
And your life just, it really it won't advance past your fear.
And that's the point. So, continue.
For the windows from on high are open.
Most High is always willing to bless a man, take care of a man, look out for a man. The blessing's there. Other men getting blessed and taken care of, and Most High honoring their sacrifices. But a part of my sacrifice has to be let go of my snare.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's keep going.
Go ahead.
And the foundations of the earth do shake.
And that's what we're dealing with the fall of Israel. I don't want to go into all that. But let's go into Ecclesiastes in the Bible, chapter 12, and verse 5.
Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 5.
Shoot, hold on a second. Let me I put Ecclesiasticus on accident. Okay, read that.
Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 5.
Okay.
Also, when they shall be afraid of that which is high, and fear shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish.
So he's dealing with people that are dealing with fear. That's on high. I mean, that's really heavy in their spirit. And fear shall be in the way. Read on.
And the almond tree shall flourish, and the grasshopper shall be a burden, and desire shall fail.
What I'm trying to bring out of this verse is that when fear is on high, when people's insecurities are on high, what's also on high is that the desire fails. How many of us, when we're dealing with insecurities and dealing with fear, we stop trying in that arena? We stop trying. We just avoid it. It deals with kind of like, it connects with that fallow ground. Because if I'm afraid to get rejected, if that's a real issue for me, you know where the desire fails? They'll stop putting themselves in positions to get rejected. Right?
Okay.
Why? Because you're protecting yourself from that fear. You're protecting yourself from those letdowns. But you're also putting yourself in a position where you're not going to grow spiritually. Yes, sir?
So the thought on my mind right now is like a person putting himself like in a fetal position.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of like what you're
Well, it's fetal position, or it could be that way, but just a lot of our people just avoid our issues. So we'll act like it's not there.
It's right there in the face.
And then we'll wonder why we'll go through these phases of depression, these phases of unhappiness, and we'll go through these bipolar moments where we're on a high, then all of a sudden we're on a high because we've been avoiding these huge pitfalls and snares
Until
in
the
our
reality
life.
comes, this is what you're dealing with.
And because we
back
think
on
we
it.
can sit back here and do busy work.
Yep.
We can work around this demon.
You can't work
We
around
can
it.
work around this big pit and this
Yep.
snare that's in my life. If I take my mind this direction, I can forget about this hole. And it only works for so long of a period of time before you come back to reality that this problem is here.
Men do busy
And then
work.
we'll have these highs,
Huh?
and then we'll have these lows. Then we'll sit back here and once again forget about the lows, forget about this pit and this snare that's in my life. I'll avoid it and I'll get back on my high again. And then we'll sit back here and say, this truth isn't working for me. What good is going to class? What good is getting my spirit? What good is all this class stuff? I'm still depressed. What good is going to class? I still feel this way. Well, you're not putting the work in.
And class is not going to solve it. Class gives you the answer.
You know what class is supposed to do? It's to exhort you. It's to motivate you to face the things you don't want to face. That's what class is for. Class is to inform, teach, and then exhort. To get you the motivation to fight and dig yourself out of these snares and pits that you have. You're in these snares and pits because you're afraid. Fear got you in these snares and pits. Fear got you on these lows. Is what I'm saying making sense so far? Am I getting too deep with this? I'm trying to clearly explain how fear is manifested differently in different people. Like I said, whether it's insecurities. All insecurities is self-hatred. A lot of us sit back here. I'm not even going to. We're going to let the scriptures talk. I'm talking too much. Read that again from verse 5. No, we got verse 5. What's the point of verse 5? Is that when you feed fear too much, your desire starts to drain and fail too.
Because I can't get past my fear. I want this blessing, because the scripture said here earlier, it said right here, it said, also when they shall be afraid of that which is high, and fear shall be in the way. Talking about that fear of success too.
Mm-hmm.
People have fear of success. Fear, because some people quit their marriages because it's going to work out. this might be the guy. I'm gonna run because what if he rejects? What if he lets me go? What if he quits on me?
Yep.
Well, some brothers, I want this position in the camp, but you know what? I'm fighting for it, but at the same time, I'm afraid of the labor or the stress that comes.
And that's why the scripture says, how long are you going to be of two opinions?
God.
How long are you going to want this, but also be afraid of fighting your fear? Because that's how most of our people are. We want all these blessings in our life. We think we deserve top-notch blessings, get the most, not the less. Right?
Yeah.
But then we have we're full of fears and insecurities that are keeping us from these blessings. So what we do, we want to keep going to get these blessings without facing and confronting these fears that are dominating us day in and day out. So what we end up doing, we start spinning. How many of us feel like we're spinning our wheels in the truth? In certain arenas, we're just spinning our wheels and we're getting no traction. We're getting no traction. We're seeing no growth.
Not being effective.
We're not effective in arenas that we need to be effective in. It's because we're running from these fears, running from these insecurities and doubts, and we're not allowing ourselves to take hold of our home, put our house in order properly. You can't put your house in order unless you're afraid, unless you give up your fear of loss. You can't even grow in the truth to the highest of your capabilities until you give up your image, give up your personal hopes and dreams. You got to lose before you gain. You got to lose your vanity, lose your pride, lose your idea of what your identity is.
Your ability to assume.
Everything has to go if you want to see growth. Yes?
I was just thinking about what I said. Running from the noise. There's no noise if you're by yourself. You isolate yourself too.
Yeah, but you know where you're isolated at? In that goddamn pit. It's quiet as hell in that pit.
You're the only one there.
That pit is quiet and cold and it's very lonely in the damn
And
pit.
you think it's only you going through that?
I'm telling you, there's a lot of pit dwellers in Israel. There's a pit crew out. You dig in your own pit and you fall right in that shit out.
Yeah.
And you're right. If you dug it, listen, you might be 5 feet, but you dug it 8 feet, 10 feet, and you ain't got 3 feet of hops. You ain't got a 36-inch vert, so you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You're in damn trouble. So now you're gonna burn off years trying to climb a damn hill or a pit you can't climb,
Hoping for help.
hoping that somebody rescues you, but you got to get yourself out of it because you got to decide to face your fears. That's how you get out of your rut. And there's nothing any teacher or example or a husband or counselor can do to pull you out of it. All we can do is warn and teach. And you got to find it in you to face these things you're afraid of.
It's kind of like, I hate to do a movie reference, but I rarely do that.
The movie guy make you some movies
I
out.
don't movie I have bad references out, but
Sometimes.
but you seen Batman in that movie out? The Batman.
There's a lot of Batmans. You got to be specific about Batman.
He was in the little pit though. Remember he he fought Bane.
Okay, that's not bad.
That's a
Okay.
pit example, right? He fought
Okay,
Bane.
okay.
And he had to muster all the energy and all the spirit he could. But if you go half-ass it, you're not gonna get out that pit. It's back on the bottom.
Okay. Oh yeah. Well, listen. First of all, that was movie shit. Cause he didn't have them kind of ups to jump from there to there. He did not have what it took. He would have been dashed to the ground.
Yeah.
But, you know, I get what your point is.
Yeah.
I get what your point is.
But you know, it's just
Okay.
a pit example. It's a pit example, bro.
That's okay. The
It's a movie example.
Bang. It's cool. It's okay.
So that's why I'm using movie references out.
Listen, there's no hate out. We're all good. It's all love. We're gonna go to Psalms 88 and 15.
Yeah.
We're gonna still talk about this fear and how it's crippling. Psalms 88 and verse 15.
Psalms 88 and verse 15. Ready?
I'm ready.
I am afflicted and ready to die.
Psalms 88.
That's
verse
a hell of
15.
a first part of the verse, huh?
That's an intro.
Huh?
That's a crazy intro.
Hell yeah.
Intro.
It says, I am afflicted and ready to die from my youth up. While I suffer thy terrors, I am distracted.
The second part of the verse is what I was trying to bring out. When we're dealing in fear, when fear engulfs us, when we're afraid to lose, you're what?
Distracted.
You're distracted at. You're distracted from the lesson at. Fear keeps you from getting the lesson the Most High is trying to teach you at. We're so caught up in what we're going to lose, we're missing out on the lesson. What is the Most High trying to teach you? And this is why operating in fear is so crippling and destructive. Because the Most High is trying to teach you something in facing your fear. But fear becomes the dominant force that keeps you from the lesson the Most High is trying to get you to. Is that making sense? And we fall into these pits of fear because we're afraid to lose. We're afraid our circumstances to go left. We're afraid to lose family, friends, for standing up for what's right. But with all that fear that's dominating you in your decisions, now you're distracted from the greater lesson. And that's why we waste so much time operating in fear. The Most High's got the answer right in front of you. But you dug this damn deep-ass pit and you'll never see the answer. Because you're caught up in your head about what you've lost, what you're going to lose, and what you're about to lose. It's like the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. Right?
Huh?
You're caught up into your past. You're afraid of your present, and you're afraid of your future. And while you're caught up into all these different issues in your life, what's ahead of you, you're just losing years and you're losing lessons the Most High had intended for you to learn 10, 15 years ago.
Just like the giants in Israel.
Okay?
In the wilderness. That's a perfect lesson because if we had dealt with those giants the right way, we have to keep walking that wilderness.
You know what's crazy? We didn't realize that the giants were already afraid. The giants had already been given prophecies that the Canaanites were going to lose. A lot of their population was dying by murder hornets.
Yeah.
Everything was going crazy. All it took was one war, and the Canaanites were shook.
It would have broke.
No, they were shook. By the time we got to Joshua, they were shook because we beat some dudes on the east side of Jordan. They were already shook. All it took was Jericho to fall by some horns, and the people lost their damn brains because they already knew the prophecy was the Jews to come over there. They already knew it. But you know what's crazy? We're so caught up into the fear and the loss that we don't understand that the lesson is right behind the fear and the loss. And this is what we're trying to teach y'all today. You can't let fear dominate your decision making. You can't let fear and insecurity and the worry about loss get in the way of making spiritual decisions. Not carnal, spiritual decisions. This is why the Most High says if you trust in Him, He'll always protect you. If you make the spiritual choice, He'll always back you. If you fight your fears and face your fears and use spiritual ammunition to face those fears, He will look after you whether you lose something in the carnal. If you lose in the carnal, you're going to gain lessons and understanding in the spiritual. If you fight to keep the carnal, that fear is going to keep being a distraction to you, and you're going to stop in your spiritual growth at that day, month, week, year, or day, week, month, year. There's so many. I've seen brothers that left a certain time in the truth, and you meet them like 5-10 years later, and they're in the same place they were 5-10 years ago.
Like a museum.
They're in the same place, same mentality, same situation they were 5-10 years ago. Because they hadn't grown past that. They've grown in age, body, different occupations, but mentally they're the same damn person they were back in the day. You're like, this dude is a damn music. Like I said, he's a museum dude.
Yeah.
This was the mighty T-Rex.
Yep.
He lived X amount of billion years ago.
Exactly.
This is the mighty Israelite that was the shit in 2005. He reigned from 2005 to 2008. For those 3 years in the truth, he was mighty man of understanding. He was number 3 in inspection. He did the best he could. 5 years later, he's the same guy that was in inspection.
Yeah.
These are the facts, bro. These are the facts. And the reason is is because they've allowed their fear to distract them, to take them off the mark. Okay? Go to Proverbs chapter 3 and 25. Did I say Proverbs? Yes, it is Proverbs. It is Proverbs.
Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 25.
Let me get it real quick. Proverbs chapter 3 and 25.
Proverbs chapter 3 verse 25. Be not afraid of sudden fear.
Now, this is why this verse has merit. You're not supposed to be afraid of sudden fear, because sudden fear will what? Distract you. We just read it in the other verse. A lot of times that fear that grips on you keeps you from focusing on the lesson you have to operate in. This class is just about reminding us to stay empowered, to stay strong, and to not let fear of loss, fear of doing the right thing, cripple what you do for the Most High. Okay? Be not afraid of sudden fear. Read on.
Neither of the desolation of the wicked when it cometh.
Can you put this up? Just make sure. Okay, so we're going to let that go. And also go to Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 17 and 18. Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 17 and 18. And matter of fact, start at verse 16.
Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 16. As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the same name of the Lord, we will not hearken unto thee.
Listen, a lot of times, man, you give a brother a counsel about fighting his battle, facing his fear, facing his situation and his circumstance, or her situation and their circumstance. And a lot of times, whether they're going to say no, they're not going to do it, or they'll sit back and say con and still not do it. Either way, a lot of times people don't listen to the counsel that's provided to them. And that's the reason. Read on.
But we will certainly do whatsoever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth.
Listen, we're going to do what we want to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I feel. I'm going to do what I feel, and I do what I like. And that's the truth, Doc. This is what Israel wants to do. Read on.
To burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven.
Now we know Israel's not operating extreme with burning incense to the Queen of Heaven, Asherah, but the concept of I'm given counsel to change my life, but I'm going to choose this pit that I'm in. Because you know that the life of serving a foreign God is a life of a pit. It's a life of a snare.
Yeah.
So Israel likes to choose that pit. That Israel does when they get to that pit out. They make it nice out. They put curtains on the pit out.
Deck it out.
They put a rug on the pit out. They make their fear and their insecurities a comfortable place. So read on.
And to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done.
And what do men do? Men venerate and look for other safety nets.
And they make excuses why it's okay to be in this pit.
Yeah.
And justifications why it's okay not to put your heart out there and take a stand for what's right and go and fight again and put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Read on.
We and our fathers and our kings and our princes in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of victuals and were well.
And the insanity is that we tell ourselves we don't fight our battles, we run from our fears. Things were working out for us.
Yep.
Because a lot of times we don't want to come out of our comfort zone. We tell ourselves that even though I ran from my battle, my situation is pretty good.
Compared to what it could be.
Compared to what I could lose, compared to how bad my situation is. Because listen, what they're saying specifically is, I don't want to serve the Most High, man, because when I started serving Asherah, I was getting blessed.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying in Jeremiah. Jeremiah is saying, stop this wickedness. Like, I know this Most High thing might be our thing, but man, when I was making cakes to the Queen of Heaven, things were actually pretty good in my life. That's what they're saying. But this is the stubbornness that actually comes off of us too. When you try to push a person to fight their battle and stand up for what's right, a lot of times they're comfortable in that self-made prison that they've made for themselves. And they'll tell themselves that self-made prison is okay.
Wasn't that bad.
It's not that bad. Because this is what they've made, serving idolatrous gods like it was a good thing, like it was a comfortable lifestyle. Let's read on.
And saw no evil.
It wasn't bad. Read on.
But since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven.
When I start fighting my battle and stop resorting to my weak approaches and tendencies, read on.
It says, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things.
This is how we think. When I start doing the right thing and confronting my issues, now I'm in want.
Now I'm lacking.
Now you know what the lacking is? Now I feel insecure.
Yep.
Now I feel weak. Now this path is so much harder.
It might get worse.
It's worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
This is what the scripture is saying. When we sit back here and feed our fear, it's comfortable, it's easy, you know what you're dealing with. When you got to go serve the Most High, now you're in want of things. Now you're exposed. Now your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities are coming out now. This is what happens to a brother, to a wife.
Yeah.
You tell a woman to lock in and serve her man. She's like, shit, man. Now, when things are the way it was in the past, it was cool. Now I got to come out of myself and report and communicate and serve and lock in. This doesn't feel right. This isn't natural. I want it to be the way it used to be. This is what they were saying about idolatry.
Yeah.
When I was serving idols, life was comfortable.
It was cozy.
It was easy. Now I got to change, and now I'm in one of things. Just like all of us are in one of things when we had to fight our battles.
Why did it my way?
Now those vulnerabilities kick in.
Why did it my way?
You know, the day you decide you want to put your house in order, it feel like the house is about to explode.
Yeah.
Like, damn, I was just following orders. Now life is even damn harder because I try to tell the truth. You know, maybe I should have just lied and bullshitted her. Life would have been easier if I just said, hey, babe, it's cool. I love Din Din, babe. Din Din was the shit. If I just would have gave the bullshit card, life would be easy for me. But when you stand up for righteousness, like you're all spiritual and shit, the house is uncomfortable as hell. It's
Crunchy.
tense.
It's crunchy.
You're getting microwave dinners out.
Yeah.
It's the truth. And then in the back of your head is, damn, what's the benefit of standing up for what's right and fighting these damn battles if this is what I get on the back end? Is this not how it goes? There's a lot of silence in the room. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? Or his brothers and sisters thinking? I don't know.
In the pit.
They're in the pit now. Right? They're like this. What's you saying?
It's just those, when
it's so much silence in the room,
Your way, those are those certainties, and when you follow counsel, trying to be spiritual, those are.
Now you're in uncertain land, Now doors are slamming and bags are getting packed. Like, what the hell's going on here, All I did was say I want to stand up for what's right and teach you the truth instead of BS and giving you half-ass answers the whole time. They sit back in the back end. Is this shit worth it? Why don't I just make this easier for everybody? Now the easier path, you're going back in the pit, You're going back in the pit, going the easy path,
Yeah.
Or you're going to stand up for what's right and be in uncomfortable town, for a period of time. That is a dynamic that we all face in putting our house together. That's the dynamic we face when you're running a camp and you're having to be direct and honest with the body about their conditions and situations.
You can easily bullshit.
Because when you stand and tell people the truth, you're also risking losing them in the work.
Guaranteed.
And this is why men a lot of times back then would just sit back here and just tell you what you want to hear. Because I got you for a few years if I keep telling you what you want to hear. If I bullshit you, you'll stay.
Yeah.
If I tell you the truth, you could leave.
I get 5 years bullshit and 2 years keeping it real.
Yes. So you know the math adds up for the bullshit. But the Most High doesn't honor when you operate that way. You got to take the risk, and you might lose a couple bozos.
Yeah.
But you'll get some strong brothers by making that decision.
Yeah.
You'll bring out brothers and bring out the best of the small number that you got.
Yeah.
The red-nosed guys that get out here with the big puffy red hair.
We're out of here. We're out.
You're fired.
How dare
And
you?
they'll sit back here and squeeze the water out the flour at you.
How dare you tell me the
I'm gonna
truth?
get out of here. I hate you. I knew this guy was a bozo. Get him out of here.
Get
I
him
told him
outta
the
here.
truth. He got exposed.
I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight.
And all of a sudden, the shoes get all big. I can clumpy and he walk out. Let me stop.
Get back around.
Why they got like size 14 shoes? They didn't have that shit before.
Hair turns red eye.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But this is the dynamic that you face with brothers in the camp.
Yeah.
If you're gonna develop them, when you're putting your house in order,
It didn't mean be a
when you're
beast.
teaching Israel out in the world, it's not about yelling and
It's
screaming
not about being a beast.
and being a brute beast.
being
Is it
honest.
the truth of the road? It's not that. We're not talking like that.
Yeah. Saying,
It's my way or the highway. It's not that. It's about going in the book, teaching, and what's so funny? Listen, it's about teaching, not being consistent, being honorable, and being under control, but being a man of your word, and not being afraid to lose for what's right.
based on principle.
Based off spiritual, biblical principle. That's what it's about.
You're going to compromise the principle for the pit.
That's the point. And that's the challenge that a lot of us face trying to serve the Most High. That's really important for us to understand. Okay? But read verse 18 again.
Jeremiah chapter 44, verse 18. But since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by the famine.
That's a damn lie. They told themselves their life is twice as hard because they stood up for righteousness in comparison to cowering down to following idols out.
Yeah.
That's how the deranged mind starts to think. When I'm sitting back here and doing what's right, I'm catching supernatural hell. So because it doesn't feel good that I could be uncomfortable and that I'm possibly losing, why not go with the more comfortable path and comfortable direction?
The path of least resistance. Because as
Yes.
you're making the change, you're actually feeling more adversity and pressure because you're correcting a problem. When you take a
Because
building
you're
down,
getting out of that pit and you're unloosening that snare
it's a
that's
double
inside
battle.
of you.
Listen, if you're taking something and you're going the opposite direction, you're gonna feel the momentum of that opposite of previous generation, previous direction. So you gotta go fight against the tide.
Yes.
That takes double the energy.
When you're swimming against the tide, that's tiring and exhausting. But you know what? The only reason it's so tiring and exhausting is because of all the years we wasted running.
Yeah.
That's another thing. That's why it's so important that the scripture says, don't be afraid of sudden fear. Because sudden fear ends up being long-term fear. Then by the time we look up, it's been 5 years of running from our battle. Now you want to sit back and go against the current. And you wonder why you're tired and you're exhausted and you feel like you're spinning your wheels and you're wasting time. You're not wasting time. You just have to do what it takes to overcome that difficulty that you have been running from for years. Once again, this is about trying to help Israel gain the courage to stand up and fight back. And not just follow laws and make this church and religion and get beat up by your own self-doubts and self-weaknesses and self-hatred. Yes, sir.
So that sudden fear is that distraction that causes a delay or a procrastination?
Yes, that sudden fear keeps you from thinking about what the Most High is trying to teach you.
It's that paralyzing realization.
Because there's a spiritual lesson in front of you. But it's hard to think about the spiritual lesson when you're afraid to lose your family. When you're afraid to lose the things that you care about. Then all of a sudden the spiritual lesson isn't as valuable anymore.
Sometimes you do lose your family.
Well, you're going to lose it anyway.
I'm saying, but I guess that's
the catch.
class. But this is the part. I don't want to lose. I want to lose. I want to lose. I want to lose what I got. Okay, Most High heard that.
This goes into the whole Jonah thing. The Most High wants to take you to a place. He's going to take it to you. He's going to take you there regardless.
Whether you like it or not.
You can sit there and go the opposite direction. You're just going to be very uncomfortable on the road back. You're going to be in a... Listen, I always go back to that damn stomach in that whale eye. It was not a Pinocchio stomach eye.
Yeah.
It wasn't that Pinocchio whale eye. It was this big-ass circle. His whole... Hello? And he could light a match in this Pinocchio whale eye. It's not real shit, eye.
Nope.
You're in a gushy, gross, acidy, stinky animal gut, eye. And you're like... I think of something like that. I think like I'm in a washing machine. I'm in a washing machine. This animal is like,
you in hell, That's hell,
This gas, this gross. That's what I think of when I'm in a stomach. A belly of a whale eye. And you just got all this goo and stomach acid on you, and you got like those fish parts just hitting you. And that's what I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of a belly of a whale eye. That's hell, and that's real life stuff.
I mean, the human stomach's bad enough.
Human's even worse.
Can you imagine a whale?
Bro.
No, I was gonna say if you saw like Men in Black where Will Smith was inside that he was inside that insect.
That worm type thing, that roach type thing.
Yeah, that explains perfect on your point of.
Well, it's gross.
Yeah.
Well, however analogy you want to use, it's slimy grossness. Okay.
You can't even breathe.
Oh, it's not comfortable.
His mouth.
Brother, it's not comfortable, and that's the whole point. So what are we trying to explain? What we're trying to explain is when we run from our battle, when we run from our fears, if we're afraid of losing, if we're afraid of losing stability, if we're afraid of losing what we have, now you're digging yourself an entire pit. You're digging yourself a rut that you can't get out of, that you make it hard for yourself to get out. And the reason is what we're reading in Jeremiah chapter 20 or chapter 44. Is that when I'm taking the easy path, my life is easy. When I start standing up for what's right, now I'm losing things. Well, now I have the threat of losing things right in my face. That's a scary thing for a lot of people to swallow. But that is exactly what the Most High wants for us to face. This is the point. What are we trying to explain in class? Stop running from the thing you're the most scared of. Stop running from the thing you're most afraid to lose. We're going to read the verse that says it. Go to Job chapter 3. Job chapter 3 and 25. Job
chapter 3, verse 25.
Let me get it. Yes. Yep, I'm ready.
It says, "For the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me."
This is the case, but the thing that you are afraid of the most is going to meet you anyway. So why run 5 years from it? Why waste 10 years of your life running from your fears? When that fear hits, get counsel and strategy to learn how to start facing and practicing facing the fears as they come. So you can learn how to get some stability and leverage in your spiritual life. Read it again, verse 25.
Job chapter 3, verse 25. "For the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me, and that which I was afraid of is come unto me."
Done. Read on.
"I was not in safety, neither had I rest, neither was I quiet. Yet trouble came."
This is the point. Trouble is going to come. The Most High, life is going to bring you in a situation where you have to confront that fear. So it's important not to run from it. Why waste time? Because now it goes into the scriptures about pining away. Why do you want to pine away? Because you want to run from your battle. Why are you pining away and just wasting away? Because you want to run from the issues that are right in front of you. We have to learn to practice facing our issues quicker than we do. It's like the world teaches us this stuff. When your back is completely against the wall, now you got to fight. When you have no other choices, no other plays, no other moves, no other options. Now do it.
As opposed to being proactive.
And saving time. Saving time and growing. How many times you sat back here, you've been around brothers and friends in the world. I remember when I first came to knowledge, I had friends, and they just didn't believe, bro. I kept trying to hang out with these people and chill and be cool and keep connections. This is when I was young. And then they would say, look, dude, how are you going to keep these friends? You know, this was friends I had in the sports.
Yeah.
Look, this is over, man. I'm not going to the league no more, nigga. I made a choice to serve the Most High. Why are we hanging out still? We don't believe in the same thing. Every time I hang out with you, you smoking weed, you on the sticks and video games. I'm just wasting time. I'm teaching the Bible, and they're like, yeah. What about these sticks, though? Like, why am I hanging out with you anymore? Why am I spending time around these people? I'm just wasting time. So I made a choice to cut those people off and move forward. That's just dealing with young people on a low level. But as you continue to evolve in this truth, it's continually about making decisions that the Most High is trying to put you in to shave off people and influences that aren't good for you. He's trying to pull away influences and people that aren't healthy for your spirit to try to bring you closer to stronger, positive people who can build you and get closer to Him.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we run from this process.
The fear keeps us from the Most High. You want to be honest.
And you know what's crazy? Our fear keeps us from helping the ones we love. We're so afraid of losing our woman. We're so afraid of losing brothers that we don't tell them.
You can't be a real brother.
That's not real love, because your motivations are selfish. If you really love a brother or your wife, you're gonna tell them the truth. If you love them, you'll tell them the truth for their own good.
It's a disservice.
It's a disservice to lie. It's a disservice to lie so that you can keep them. For your selfish purposes. Because you know what? That sister is the Most High's child too. That woman is the Most High's child. And you're sitting back here trying to keep them so that you don't feel lonely.
Exactly.
How many brothers do that shit? I don't want to lose her, so I'll bend the rules and I'll turn a blind eye from the truth.
Play the game.
And that's what was said back in like a couple of decades ago. We're just gonna play the game. We're in the truth. Why are we playing games? The whole statement is like an oxymoron to what this is about.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the truth. But you know in the truth you gotta play the game. What are you talking about? No, you're not supposed to play the game while you're in the truth. That is the total opposite of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You don't gotta be rude, you don't gotta be a beast, you don't gotta be angry and negative about it. But you gotta tell a person the truth about themselves. And be okay with losing a person because you're going one direction and they're going another. How about that one? That happens a lot of times in life. You meet a person at a certain arc in your life, and then you make a decision to take serving the Most High to a higher level, and this person's arc is still where you were originally building with them. And you know what? Either that person is going to ascend and grow with you, or you're going to fall apart. So what do? Do you sit back here and stifle what the Most High is trying to build you with, where the person is not trying to change? Or do you keep trying to teach and develop and pray that this person sees the light?
Hopefully they do. But if they don't...
This truth isn't about running families off. This truth isn't about burning bridges. Definitely not about burning bridges. But things are what they are. And either we're going to live a life that's bound by serving the Most High or we're not. And a lot of times we have to learn to live by that principle. And we have to learn how to lose by that principle too.
And it forces you to hold on to the Most High.
Yes.
That's the only stability you got. Only thing you got is the Most High and the brotherhood.
Like Edith says, the only thing in true in life is death and taxes.
Yeah.
The only thing in the truth that's true is the Most High.
And the brotherhood, that's it.
And the brotherhood.
Because
that's going to be here today and might be gone tomorrow.
Or the sisterhood. But listen, that'll be a new brother.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to sit here and live off that principle. Listen, somebody vibing in Christ, you got to ride with people that are vibing in Christ.
And this, once again, this is not about anger, emotion.
Mm-hmm.
frustration. This is about understanding, am I going to live a life where I'm constantly reaching out to Him? Or am I going to get stuck in these ruts
And
that so many people get stuck in? The most talking about that fear brings about a pit, and in that pit there's a snare.
This is about preserving
That's a real thing, man. That's a real thing where people come in His truth and they plateau. When you go in that pit and fear dominates you, and you fall in that pit and that snare, that's when you've plateaued. And when you've plateaued, that's when the Most High can no longer use you as a vessel to do the work through. We just read it on Saturday. When Elijah hit his peak and he lost his love and patience and mercy for Israel. And once Elijah hit his snare, hit his pit, the Most High no longer could work with him. He said, okay, bro, your next thing to do is to you're going to go and anoint your replacement. That's literally what he did. Huh? He gave Elijah 40 days to figure it out and get out of his rut. He gave him such a short time because he had a greater expectation for him based on how the Most High is invested into him. But pretty much, you get to a point where you don't want to change, the Most High will send you that replacement. Because if you don't have a pure outlook, if you're motivated by fear, self-consciousness, you're in your head, then he can't fully, properly utilize you the way he wants you to utilize you. If I'm afraid to lose, how much can he work with you then? How many great works can he work to you if you're afraid to lose? How many lessons can you teach your students if I'm afraid to lose? If I got all these insecurities in me, then how is the Most going to work through you to do great works for him? We're limited. What's that?
I was just going to add to it, because every direction he tries to push you in, to utilize you in whatever arena it is, you're just going to hesitate.
And you won't have no answers. You know why I can't use you? Because you ain't got no answers. We're only as good as the last victory we won, huh?
The experiences.
Huh?
The experiences.
The last bad came. If I stop figuring shit out, guess what? I'm like, man, they just gotta pray on this shit. Oh, what am I? Man, you gotta pray, man. I don't know. we just gotta wait out, see what happens. Shit, that's all we got. If I stop fighting what's inside of me and working in me, then I don't have any answers for you. You know, the most they're gonna move me out the way. None of us escape this. This is why we can't let fear, amongst other things. We've been going over vanity. We're going over different things that impede a person's growth. But today it's about fear. Fear of loss. Fear of rejection. I'm telling you, fear of rejection is heavy on it. Guys with beards and braids, and we're scared little boys and we look in the mirror. And those are damn facts. Because we're afraid of losing. We're afraid of being let down. We're afraid of being abandoned. And you know the truth is, the Most High reveals all these things inside of us through the circumstances we go through in our life. And I'm not mocking it, because everybody has their thing. But we can't let that fear break us. We can't let those insecurities define us. We got to fight back. That's the point. It ain't easy. Listen, it's one thing to sit back and teach verses and quote Bible verses, but when it's losing time, it don't feel good. It does not feel good. But it's a real part of life. It's a real part of serving the Most High. Because eventually, you're going to have to put up and shut up, and you're going to have to lose something for him. And then he's going to want to see, don't forget, remember in Ezekiel 25, the Most High took his wife.
Yeah.
He told him he was going to do it the night before he did it. He said, I'm going to take your wife tomorrow. And then you're going to get up. You're not going to cry. You're going to teach your people. If you got the verse, let's pull it now. I think it's Ezekiel 25. If I'm not mistaken, it was Ezekiel 25. Not apple eye. He told Ezekiel he was going to take his wife. And then after he took his wife, he had a job to do. And he couldn't let his loss get in the way of him doing his job. I could be wrong with the chapter. I think I'm wrong with the chapter.
24.
Maybe. Or maybe not. I don't think it's 24. It didn't say wife. It said damn, man.
The desire of thine eyes.
You said what?
The desire of thine eyes.
What verse you at?
16, 24, and 15 and 16.
Wait, chapter what?
24.
Chapter 24.
Verse 15.
Hold on a second.
24 and 15.
Yeah, that's it. 24 and 16.
Yep. There you go, armor bearer. Excuse me, man. Let's read it. You read it. Young warrior. Got the Ginsu out here, huh?
Ezekiel chapter 24, verse 15. Also the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, behold, I take away from thee the desire of thine eyes with the stroke.
He's taking away his wife with one stroke. Listen, he's taking away his wife with one stroke, huh? Read on.
Yet neither shalt thou mourn nor weep, neither shall thy tears run down.
That's real, bro. Read on.
Forbear to cry, make no mourning for the dead. Bind the tire of thine head upon thee, and put on thy shoes upon thy feet, and cover not thy lips. Verse 18. So I spake unto the people in the morning, and at even my wife died. And I did in the morning as I was commanded.
Listen, and he didn't sit back and complain. He didn't sit back here and play a pity party. He had to lose. And he had to do his job. And every single one of us has to face, I'm not saying it's that, but that was the thing that Ezekiel had to face in his life. That was his fear. That was on him. That was the fear that he wasn't going to be able to escape. It didn't matter how righteous he lived. It didn't matter how on point he was. He had to lose. Just like each and every one of us. It doesn't matter how honorable we live. We have to face loss. And we can't be afraid of dealing with loss. The only thing that matters is maintaining your integrity. Can you maintain your integrity and stand up for what's right while you lose? That's when the Most High honors what you do for him. When you're able to maintain your character and your integrity for doing what's right. I don't want to go anything deeper into it, but it shows in the rest of the chapter how he teaches and he does his job. And then after he does his job, then he deals with what he has to deal with. It's a reminder to us that we can't be afraid of loss. Because if he takes what we love, he'll replace it. He'll replace it. Or he won't. What are we here for? Ultimately, he keeps trying to show us as we get closer to him, what are our true intentions? Why are we here? Why do you get up in the morning? Are you really serious about pleasing him? Is pleasing him, is serving him the apple of thy eye? Is that what gets you up in the morning? Because if it does, you can get through any loss that happens in your life. If he's the apple of your eye. Okay, we read Job 3 and 25, right? Let's go to 1 Kings 18 and 21.
First Kings chapter 18, verse
21.
Verse 21.
Let me get it real quick. We read this a couple weeks ago, but the verse still hits. Read on.
And Elijah came unto all the people and said, How long halt ye between two opinions?
And read on. How long are you going to have two opinions? Read on.
If the Lord be power, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word.
The people didn't answer him a word because they were still split in two. People want the advantages of being comfortable and not fighting themselves, but they also say they love the Lord too.
And they can see Baal. You can see the power. I was listening today about like the in the Chaldean times, in the time of Chaldea in Arabia, whatnot, there was, of course, the witches, but the witches had spells.
You mean in Babylon, right?
But I'm saying the generation after Babylonians, but the people still in the same area. It's like the society fell, but the people were still there, right? And they had spells to kill the worms that hit the crop. So it wasn't like they were just worshiping an idol or they just talking to a witch. The witches had solutions to their problems.
And to be specific, we talked about this like years ago.
Yeah.
How in the flesh, and in serving gods, you will get tangible fleshly rewards.
Exactly.
Because this is why they said in Jeremiah, if I stop serving Baal, my crops aren't going to grow. The things I put my hand into isn't going to grow. It's no different than in the world. We operate in the world. There are certain benefits that come from operating in the world that make life comfortable. Have you not noticed it? When you operate in the world, life is easier. When you operate in the function of the world, life isn't as difficult and challenging. Versus when you sit back here and operate in Israel's world and circumstances, it's a lot harder.
Like the morals?
Morals, work, the grind, everything is harder.
The pressure is more intense.
The pressure is more intense. The battle is harder. In the world you work, you ain't got to think about half the stresses we stressing on. These are the facts. I'm not knocking people who are or are not working out there. I'm just explaining what the damn deal is. And we're explaining that. He says, listen, Elijah was explaining, choose one side or the other. If you're going to serve the Most High, understand that we're in here to fight battles and grow. A lot of times we want to sit back here and be in Israel and still be religious. You want to be in an Israelite environment, but not have to feel the pressure of change and fighting what's inside of you day to day. You can't have it both ways. Either you're going to make a life of change and commitment and facing all these things inside of us so that we can still be spiritually relevant, or live a life of comfort. Don't intertwine the two lives. This is what Elijah is saying. And the more we embrace this mindset, it's easier to fight your battle. When you're around a bunch of people that's talking to you about an easy life and comfortable life, then you come in around this realm 2 or 3 days a week. Hell yeah, it's hard. Am I right? For those sisters who are out here having to work a job in the world, and you're around all this blabber filth talk, then you come around Israel. Isn't it a change of mode you got to be in?
Mind, yeah.
It's a damn hard change to change from what they're talking about and then switch modes and be around sacrifice and giving. What he's saying, that's the battle that we have to own up to. We have to realize that world is a mirage. It's fake. Can I understand? I'm putting on my fake side out there so I can sit back and support the family and come back home and be about my battle, be about the Lord's work. This is what we're having to teach our ribs how to operate. How that world, you're just out there to get paid, and that's it. You come back in here and come back into your real battle. Anyway, we're going to let that verse go. But just how we just read about you can't have two opinions, you got to sit back and live your life for one, we're going to go to Luke chapter 9, verse 24. Luke chapter 9, verse 24 through 25.
Come on. Ready?
Almost. Let's read that.
Come. Luke chapter 9 and verse 24 reads, "For whosoever will save his life shall lose it."
And this is the process of, listen, how does a man save his life?
Taking the easy path.
He makes it easy. He makes his life comfortable. He avoids the battles. He avoids his fear. She avoids her fear. She runs from loss. He runs from loss. That's how you save your life. But in the process of you saving your life and living comfortably, you're also losing your life. You're losing your spiritual life. And this is Christ is saying, he's explaining what we read about that pit and that snare in Psalms. What you're going to start seeing in these next few verses, down the line, is how the Most High says it one way in Psalms, but he says it another way in Corinthians and in the gospel. But it's the same concept. All Christ is saying is, you want to run from your spiritual battle? You gain the flesh and lose your spirit. You want to sit back here and awaken your spirit and bring your spirit to life? The flesh has to die. You can't be of two opinions. Something is going to die constantly while something else is being nurtured constantly. If it's about the spirit, then I got to fight my fears every day. I got to fight my battles and insecurities and doubts. That's what being an Israelite is. That's what getting close to Christ is. Every day, am I going to face the things that haunt me, that make me uncomfortable, that weaken me, and go against that nature,
or make progress in that one fear you have that's debilitated you and kept you back from your maturity in Christ.
And am I going to make a decision to kill the flesh, feed the spirit? I'm going to sit back and go against and attack my fears so that my spirit can grow. Or am I going to run from my fears, feed my flesh and destroy my spirit, and tell myself it's easier this way than the other way? This is the dynamic that we're dealing with dealing with Christ. This goes way beyond the law. This goes beyond more. This goes and deals with moral decisions about your purpose and how you want to live your life. You understand? Read on.
Come. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it. But whosoever will lose his life for my sake.
Losing your life for Christ's sake is about attacking that fear, attacking that pride, going at those insecurities. When you sit back here and lose your life for his sake, read on.
The same shall save.
You'll save your spirit. And this is why you have to fight that fear. Read on.
For what is a man advantage if he gain the whole world and lose himself, or be cast away?
What good is living a comfortable life? Because nobody's gaining the whole world in this room. If we leave the truth, we ain't gonna be these rich, out of this world type dudes. If you sit back here and choose comfort over spiritual growth, what advantage is doing that and losing your spirit and losing your purpose in general? We might as well sit back here and go for the gusto and live our life to break these fears and doubts in us. And take those chances in Christ. Live by faith. Whether it's fear, whether it's selfishness, whether it's breaking vanity, whether it's breaking doubt. What is it that's your weakness? And are you going to live your life to break it so Christ will accept you or not? It's that simple. Today it's just about fear. Let it go. And go to Matthew chapter 13, verse 44 through 46. Matthew 13, verse 44 through 46.
Matthew 13 and verse 44. You ready, sir?
I am ready.
God. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto treasure hid in the field, the which when a man hath found, he hideth, and for joy thereof goeth and selleth all that he hath, and buyeth that field.
Listen, it goes back to the same point. If I value serving Christ, if I value this word, if I truly want to please the Most High, it comes with a what? It comes with a price, man. You got to sell. When it says sell your field, what does it mean? You're giving up your ways. You're giving up your comfort and your approach. Somebody say something?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you.
Does it also mean to sell away your comforts as well?
That's exactly what it is. Selling your way is your comfort. And learning how to stand up for what's right. And learn to have spiritual integrity. And what it means to have spiritual integrity, what that means is, you know what? The people around me have to be accountable for serving the Most High too. What good is it if I'm a reflection of the Most High, but the people I love the most aren't held accountable to serve the Most High themselves? And what kind of man does it say I am? I'm a man that's full of compromise. I'm a man that's afraid to lose. Then that shows you're really not about serving the Most High yourself. Either you're going to stand up, the scripture says all the time, Psalms 94 and 16, who shall stand up against the evildoers? Who shall rise up against the workers of iniquity? Who's going to sit back here and make a stand and say, you know what, man, if you're not rolling like this, it's okay. You stay over there, I stay over here. It's okay. Because a man of Christ or a woman of Christ is okay with being alone. That's the fact. We're not
for righteousness' sake.
For righteousness' sake. Not to be independent single woman. That I don't want not that. All the single ladies. All the single ladies. Not that reason. Get your hands up. It's not that. Up in the club. Dun, 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 dun. That drove me crazy back in the day. Anyway, what are we saying? What we're saying is having spiritual integrity is what this is about. Okay? That's what he's expecting.
You can't get there when you're swallowed in the pit, bro.
When you're in the pit.
And you're decorating the pit. Sin must be exceedingly sinful, or my condition, I must analyze and be conscious of my condition, not numb myself. When Christ was on the cross, they tried to give him that vinegar to numb him. This how he rejected he injected the numbing agent because he had to feel it. We're the same way. We have to be in this position where listen, I'm gonna go ahead and accept this circumstance and embrace it. Okay. Versus sitting here and distracting myself, which is a numbing agent.
The fear, we read earlier in class, fear is a distraction. Yeah. And you're being distracted from the lessons. Hell, pride is a distraction.
Yeah.
Selfishness is a distraction. Vanity is a distraction. All these things get in the way of your growth. And the only way to grow is you got to give up your field. Give up your bad habits. Give up your carnal habits and approaches to go and get a greater approach. Yeah. The whole point of selling your field and buying another field, what does that mean? If I'm gonna sell my field and buy another field
to get the pearl.
But what is it? What is that transaction about?
Your way.
You sacrifice.
Yeah. Sacrifice the Most High. Give me a little more.
Okay.
I'm not selling. I just want more.
Selling your pit.
Like the Lord. I know it's about the Lord. Give me more about the breakdown. What are we saying? When you're selling this field for this field, you know what you're also acknowledging?
A higher value.
This way is a better way.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was trying to say. You was like the Lord.
Sacrificing this,
but it's not a sacrifice.
Something better down the line.
But it's not a sacrifice because you're acknowledging this is better.
Yeah.
And if I'm acknowledging this is better, is it really a loss? No. Is it really a sacrifice?
It's an exchange, right?
It's an upgrade.
Yeah.
It's an upgrade if you look at it as an upgrade. The problem is most of us don't look at growth as an upgrade. We look at it as labor and stress, and I'm catching hell, and I'm sad, and I'm snuffleupagus. I'm like, oh, Bert, I have to change today. Oh, man, I have to study more scriptures today. How many of us look at growth like that? We do. So what are we saying? That whole process is about understanding that this way of looking at things is a better way. So let's stop fighting this process. Okay?
Or be a slave, bro.
Or be a slave and be unhappy and not fix. Listen, there's a lot of Israelites that live by fear, and they're servants and slaves to that fear. And they never get out of these ruts for years.
That fear almost becomes an idol, bro. We'll serve the fear more than we'll serve the Most High.
Come. Because it's easier. We just read it. It's easier to serve that fear than fight back. This is the issue. It's easier to sit back and live that lie, be uncomfortable, be comfortable in that pit, than stand up and fight and get that snare off of you, dig out of that pit and then run back to the fear to break it.
And then come back to show the brothers, hey, you don't have to be in the pit no more, bro. It's like slavery. Israel was in slavery in America And there was freedom. That's why I said, listen, we're gonna go north.
Nope.
Last night said, no way.
I'm used to this. I'm used to this.
I'm not leaving no Alabama.
Yeah.
For nothing better than this.
I don't know what's out there.
Or Texas, either one.
And this is why the Most High calls Israel a homeborn one.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to sit back here and venture out to fight what's inside of us. We're to stay in our pits, in our comfortable scenarios that we've made comfortable because we're so afraid of what's out there. We're so afraid of growth. They were crippled by that fear. Yes, sir?
I was going to say, that's why Israel wanted to go back to Egypt.
Yes. Yeah. They wanted to go back to Egypt because they didn't have to think. Yeah. In the wilderness, you had to have faith. You had to fight fear. You had to sit back here and accept your condition. I'm eating. That was a great statement. You had to sit back here and eat manna. I couldn't have my leeks and fish and my onions, my little comfort foods. I couldn't make my slave soup. All kind of craziness. Whatever the hell slave soup it was, slave drink, slave soup. We couldn't have our meals. We had to sit back and live by faith and trust the Most High. Living by faith and trusting the Most High is way scarier than living in my routine, my controlled routine. Even with men in the house. I'd rather be in the house where there's tension in the house than sit back here and stand up for what's right and take the risk of being alone. And the Most High is sending somebody that can help me in a better life.
Shalom, bro.
And it's the situation. This is how we operate. I'd rather be in living hell than stand up for what's right and open the Most High's doors to give me something better or send me a blessing.
But hey, bro.
Living in misery is better than being alone. That's how people think. And that's a scary thing.
Spiritual.
That's a crippling thing in the spirit.
In the flesh, it's not. In the flesh, is, hey, man, it's going to be all right.
Well,
got my TV, got my sliders.
Little man cave.
My sliders. She trips every 3 times a week, 3 times a month. It'd be all right.
Like I said.
But for your spirit, though, your spirit.
It's death.
That's the problem. So the Most High uses these conditions to see where is your spirit.
That's all we're trying to say, bro. Listen, are we done with Matthew?
It's not us saying destroy your family.
And we're not saying, and that's thank you, bro.
I got this disclaimer.
Disclaimer, right?
At this class,
nobody's
saying. Bunch of craziness going on. No, we're saying.
Yeah, I put my hands on my woman last night, bro, because I was standing up for righteousness' sake. No, nobody's saying use backhand.
Taylor told me. He told me.
Right. No,
stop being afraid. No, nobody said that.
No.
Brothers are saying you have to have tact and be an ambassador of Christ, like we teach every day, and make sure you use the word of the Lord to confront the demon in your life that's surrounded.
To fight your fears.
Your fear, because they got their own fears. You got to fight yours. And to do it for Christ's sake, for righteousness' sake, so you can have your spirit, so you can breathe spiritually, or be in the cage, be in that prison,
and be in hell,
and be in hell. But you let it be hell, because you allowed it, because you're more fleshly than spiritual.
And that's all we're trying to express, y'all.
I'm not saying destroy. I want to hear no crazy.
And they say a war told me to do this. No,
I didn't understand. I walked out. I didn't get them. No, bro.
Well, even everybody in TV land, just understand the point. Replay the class, man, so there's no confusion. But let's continue with Matthew.
You want 44?
Read from the top, 44 through 46.
Matthew 13, verse 44. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto treasure hidden in a field, the which when a man hath found, he hideth, and for joy thereof goeth and selleth all that he hath, and buyeth that field.
And we explain that. Read on.
Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchant man, seeking goodly pearls, who, when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had.
Listen, the scripture talks about whom the Lord loveth, the Lord what? Can you accept that chastening process? Can we look at the chastening of the Lord as the pearl? Because we look at the pearl or this land as the kingdom, versus looking at the chastening of the Lord as the pearl, what it takes to grow. What the Most High puts us through is the blessing. The difficulties and the discomforts
The journey.
he puts us through, the challenges, the fears that we have to face in ourselves. That's the pearl.
Because the pearl is created through irritation.
I know.
A pearl is created through dust. Dust goes inside the pearl or inside the clam, and that irritation forms that pearl. So when you're sitting here selling what you have, irritation, discomfort of going against your comfort zone, going against your flesh, going against what you're used to, you get to see the light of God by seeing the Most High show you His presence and show you His Spirit by blessing your righteous moves and righteous choices and making you sharper spiritually.
And that's the whole point. The pearl is in the process that the Most High develops us.
Yeah.
Can I embrace how He develops me? Can I embrace how He works on my spirit?
Oh.
If I can enjoy and embrace the process, then I can really embrace the truth in general.
Yeah.
Okay? So the kingdom is as a person who values the process that it takes to get them to the kingdom. That's what matters. We're going to let that go and go to 2nd Ezra chapter 7, verse 6 through 10. Got my thing, bro. 2nd Ezra chapter 7, verse 6 through 10.
Go. 2nd Ezra chapter 6.
It's getting loud. Chapter
Speak
7,
up,
Yeah.
verse 6 through 10.
Yeah, somebody come out to read it. Trying to mess it.
2nd Ezra chapter 7, verse 6 through 10.
2nd Ezra chapter 7 verse 6. There is also another thing. A city is builded and set upon a broad field, and is full of all good things.
This city that's built and is full of great things is the kingdom. It's the blessings. It's the end of the road. Read on.
Verse 7. The entrance thereof is narrow, and is set in a dangerous place to fall, like as if there were a fire on the right hand, and on the left a deep water.
So he's telling you the passageway that's going to get to this plentiful place. It's dangerous, like a fire on one side and a water on the other. Right? Read on.
And one only path between them both, even between the fire and the water.
Come.
So small that there could but one man go there at once.
Exactly. So one person can cross this dangerous path at a time to get to this goodly city.
You're going to do this threshold by yourself.
God.
You're suffering by yourself, and you're crossing the threshold by yourself.
You're not alone, but you're alone. What I mean is
Who can do it for you?
you're not alone in regards to you having to fight your battle.
Yeah.
Now you have counselors, you have teachers,
Backers.
you have people that give you advice,
Support.
you have people that can exhort you
Come.
through all the process. But you are on your own when it comes to your decision making and having to break what's inside of you.
Yeah.
Okay? Read on.
If this city now were given unto a man for an inheritance, if he never shall pass the danger set before it.
And this is the point. In order to get to the kingdom, you are going to have to deal with the danger that's in front of you.
Yeah.
You have to take the risk of dealing with danger and loss. This is the lesson he's teaching. Yes, sir.
So are you saying we ourselves choose if we dig ourselves into a pit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because listen, remember in Isaiah, it was Isaiah 24 and 17 and 18. It talked about how you run from the fear and you fall in the pit. Once you're in the pit, you catch yourself in the snare. And this is the process that we run from the fear, right? And we read it also in Proverbs 3 and 25 that we're not supposed to be afraid of sudden fear when it comes. But a lot of times when that fear hits us, we run. When we're afraid of loss, we run. And because we're running from our battle, we're running from that fear, we end up creating that snare and that pit that we can't get out of. Because we're afraid of the loss. We're afraid of facing that confrontation. We're afraid of losing. Whatever that fear is, being alone, being abandoned, being hated, not having your children around, whatever your fear is, you run from that fear, you've created your own grave. You've created your own pit that you can't get out of unless you go and face that fear that you ran from in the first place. And like Dawiyah says, most people, they run from that fear and they just get comfortable in that pit. And they make that pit their home. And they forget what growth and spiritual growth is. Because they get so consumed in this pit. They get comfortable in the discomfort. And this is why those people that were serving Baal said, it was easier serving Baal than serving the Most High. Serving the Most High, I started catching hell again. Exactly. Serving the Most High makes you confront those things you were running from your whole life. Does that make sense? Okay. So where are we at in that verse?
Last part is
verse 9, right?
Verse 9, the end of verse 9. How shall he receive this inheritance?
How are you going to receive the inheritance if you're not willing to face the danger that's in front of you? When danger is presented to you, danger brings out fear. Are you going to sit back here and face your fears, face your insecurities, face your doubts so you can earn that inheritance? Or do you face that, you see that fear and you run opposite and you hide and you wither away and die in fear of loss, like a lot of our people do. We live our life in fear of loss versus standing up for what's right and taking the chance that the Most High will come through for them if they stand up for what's right. A lot of people operate in cowardice. Read on.
Verse 10. And I said, it is so, Lord. Then said he unto me, even also as Israel's portion.
This is Israel's portion in life, huh? Israel's portion in life is to sit back here and not be afraid. Don't forget what made Israel Israel. What made Israel end up leaving from Jacob to he is a prince of power?
For not giving up in the battle.
Not giving up. Not quitting. Not running. I got to pull this verse and I'm going to come back. It talks about, should I do this? Yes. Proverbs 24 and 10. I'm changing the pace of the class, but I'm going to do this. Proverbs 24 and 10.
Proverbs 24 and verse 10.
Let me type this in because it's important. Proverbs 24 and 10. Read that, sir. Somebody get the 1828 ready. Read that.
Proverbs 24 and verse 10.
Mm-hmm.
So like my pages are stuck together.
Read that.
It says, if thou faint in the day of adversity, thy strength is small.
If thy faint in the day of adversity. We're going to find out what faint is. Give me 1828 for faint. 1828 for faint.
Faint.
Ho, 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 ho. Faint, and I want the first definition of faint, and we're going to probably go to the fourth. The second set of the fourth. But I'll read the first.
Faint. Feeble.
That's
weak.
1828?
Yeah, the fourth one, right?
No, the first one.
Oh, it's like
I want the first and the second set of the fourth.
Okay. Weak, languid, inclined to swoon, as to be rendered faint by excessive evacuations.
That was the point.
Wow.
Listen, when it says, if you faint in the day of adversity, how many of our people have excessive evacuations in the day of adversity?
Yeah, back
Excessive.
We getting the hell out of here. We run for the hills
Yeah.
when adversity comes to us.
Get him out of here.
He says, listen, when this person has excessive evacuations, he says in the day of adversity, his strength is small. The Most High can't build with you if you're always running. You're always evacuating when things are hard.
Yeah.
You're always quitting
Evacuate.
when things are different. Mayday, mayday, mayday.
Emergency.
Exactly. You got the chopper. The chopper's coming out.
Yeah.
You're getting the hell out of this situation. He's the person that's always evacuating in a time of adversity. There's brothers that are known for this shit. When things get difficult, I gotta get out of here. I gotta leave. I gotta get a new job. I gotta escape out. It's too much out. But brothers make it their whole life of that. When things get hard, I'm leaving. I'm out of here. Deuces out.
I'm out of here.
I'm out of here. This is Israel to a T. When they face loss, they face discomfort, They face real problems. They chunking the deuce and they heading to the hills.
Yeah.
He says that person that has excessive evacuations in the day of adversity,
That's crazy.
his strength is small.
That's crazy.
Kinda. Our people
Because
know.
it's not like you don't go back to drawing board sometimes. Let me rethink this.
Yeah.
But now listen.
You have a pattern
You
of
got a
evacuating.
plan, bro. You don't want to do it. The plan's been written out.
Yep.
Word for word, T for T, move for move, point for point, blow for blow. You gotta perform the wisdom now.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, man,
Yeah.
I can't do it.
And you make excuses.
Yeah.
And you do it so much, you make excuses for why you quit. Our people are notorious for quitting during adverse situations. Excessive evacuations, bro. Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
Another definition of faint is the second, fourth definition. It says to decay, to disappear, to vanish. When you vanish in the day of adversity, your strength is small. When you disappear in the day of adversity, when you're afraid, when you face that, instead of facing fear, you go opposite. He says you're a weak man or you're a weak woman when you always quit when things get hard, when you always disappear during the challenge. He says, Most I really can't bear with you. And there's another verse, since we're bouncing a little bit, go to Ecclesiastes in the Apocrypha. 2:13. Ecclesiasticus 2:13.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 verse 13.
Let me write this down. Put it up. Type it real quick. I'm sorry. Read that.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 verse 13. Woe unto him that is faint-hearted.
Woe unto the person that excessively evacuates. Woe to the person that's always vanishing, that's always running during difficult times. Read on.
For he believeth not.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore shall he not be defended.
Most High is not going to defend the quitter, right? He's not going to defend the person that's always running. When things get difficult, I got to get out of here. When my issues are revealed, I'm out of here. I'm going to pack my bags and bounce. A lot of people are like this, A lot of our people come into this truth and they're habitual quitters. They're habitual quitters, they're habitual liars, and we better fix this because the Most High says those excessive quitters, those people aren't defended. Those people who evacuate during hard times, the Most High don't defend them. He stings them, And those people run, they evacuate because they're afraid to lose. They're afraid to be uncomfortable. They don't want to change. Y'all understand? Okay. Now we're going to go back to Matthew chapter 25. And let me see. I don't want to read this whole thing. We're going to have to read it, but I don't want to focus on breaking the entire thing down.
Did you still want me to hold second answers?
Yeah, we finished verse 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let that go. Give me Matthew 25. But we're going to run through it quickly, and I'm going to briefly explain it. But I want to explain a deal. I want to explain verse 30. I want to focus on, not 30, let's just run it. Matthew 25, verse 14 through 30.
Matthew 25, verse 14. Ready?
Yep.
For the kingdom of heaven is a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods.
Mm-hmm.
And unto every one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several abilities.
And those talents are abilities, skills, natural talents the Most High has given each of us. Some of us got 5, some got 3, or 2, some got 1. Read on.
And he straightway took his journey. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents.
So this person took 5 talents, and he sat back here and worked on things inside of him to double his talents, which shows that he really worked on the things inside of him to double what was inside of him naturally. Read on.
And likewise, he that had received 2, he also gain other 2.
Mm-hmm.
But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth and hid his Lord's money.
Uh-huh.
After a long time.
Uh-huh.
After a long time, the Lord of the servants cometh and reckoneth with them. And so he that had 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more.
I would go into this class with more detail, or this chapter with more detail if we have more time. But if I go through all this thing verbatim, class is over. So now the person with 5 talents gave back the 5 talents plus 5 to the man of the land, which is Christ. Read on.
Verse 21. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things.
Mm-hmm.
Enter thou into the joy of the Lord.
So the person with 2 talents doubled his talents, right? Read on.
Then he that had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee, that thou art a hard man.
Now he got the excuse ready. The guy with 1 talent got the excuse. The other 2 said, man, I did what you said and I doubled it. Now the guy with the 1 talent said, I know you hard, austere son of a gun. I know you serious. Read on.
Reaping where thou hast not sown.
Because this is how Christ operates. Christ demands usury from us. So he knew that Christ demanded usury from him. Read on.
And gathering where thou hast not strewed. And I was afraid.
And here is where the fear kicks in. This man had 1 talent, was supposed to double that 1 talent, and give and present the Most High that double talent. But this person was afraid. Read on.
And went and hid thy talent in the earth.
So what does that mean where it says this man was afraid and hid his talent? That means he was what? He was distracted. He quit. First of all, he was distracted. Because he had fear, he lost that desire to fight. Because remember in Ecclesiastes 12:5, fear causes desire to fail. So when he had that fear, whatever was going on in his life got him distracted from the bigger picture, which was change, which was fixing what's inside of him. And this is what fear does to us. We're so afraid. Listen, he was so afraid of losing the 1 talent, he lost his soul in the whole process. He was so afraid of losing something, he never took the time to add something to him. This is how we operate. We're so afraid to change what's inside of us. The Most High wants to see the change. The only way to see the change is to confront the fear. But if we sit back here and run from the fear and just keep the blessing he already gave us, we're going to see how the Most High reacts to a person that does that. So many of us do that. So many of us operate in class and get years and years and years of class, and we're afraid to sit back here and stand up for what's right. We're afraid to lose. We're afraid to face our fear. And then at the end we'll say, Father, you gave me this talent. Here, you take it. But the Most High didn't want what he already invested into you. He wanted you to grow. He wanted you to face those fears and those doubts. He purposely allowed these things to happen in your life to expose your fears and your insecurities. Why is it important for the Most High through life and through circumstances to get you to face and see your fears? Why is that so important?
You won't grow.
You won't grow, and when you're afraid, maybe when you're afraid, you'll cleave to him.
Yeah.
When you have nowhere else to go, that's when you cleave to the Most High. When you don't have no power, and you take the risk of loss, all you got is to cleave to him. So the fear is necessary. You have to experience the fear to grow in him, to cleave to him more. As long as you sit back here and play it safe, you'll never grow. You'll never understand what faith is. You'll never understand the Most High at a high level. It'll just be academics to you. It'll just be a book. It'll just be a book of knowledge and not a living Bible like it's supposed to be. You have to get your back against the wall with the threat of losing it all, so you can see the Most High come through for you. And because this man was so afraid to lose, he didn't take the time to go to the exchangers and work on his spirit so he can double his talent. Because fear crippled him. Read on.
Verse 25. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast that is thine. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant.
He's like, that person that operates in fear is wicked and slothful. When I'm not trying to face what's inside of me, when I run opposite of my weaknesses and I hide in that pit and I allow myself to be in that snare, you're wicked and you're slothful. He put the fear or the scary situation in front of you, whether you might be losing your children. You might be at risk of losing your rib. Lose the things you love. You got to face that if you want to grow in Christ. There's no other way around it. And if you run from it and you hide, just like he hid that talent, he's hiding himself in that pit. He says, you're a wicked and slothful servant. You really weren't about pursuing me. All you cared about was keeping your possessions. Keeping the things I already gave you. Read on.
Come. Verse 26. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not.
He said, you knew I wanted you to grow. You knew I gave you this talent with the anticipation you were supposed to double it. You knew I put you on this earth so you can learn to get closer to me. And you still didn't sit back here and do what it took to get closer to me because fear dominated you. And this is why Ecclesiasticus 2:13 says that faint-hearted person, that person who runs, that person who evacuates, is not going to be protected. The ones that play it safe ain't going to be defended. You got to take the risk for righteousness' sake, man.
God.
You got to stand up for righteousness' sake if you want the Most High to come through for you. You got to give him a chance for him to show his power to you. If you don't give him a chance to show his power to you, if you don't risk it, you won't get the blessing and he won't defend you at the end. People don't see that. People want to control everything. They want to keep their entire life under control, and that's not the Spirit of Christ. You got to take the risk of loss to gain. It ain't always going to be a loss, but you got to risk it to even gain it. Read on.
Verse 27. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchange, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury.
Come.
Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which hath 10 talents. For unto every one that hath shall be slackened. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away, even that which he hath.
But the person that has not, they had a chance to grow too, but they were too afraid to step up and fight. There's a lot of people that get this knowledge, but they never live this knowledge. They get this knowledge, but they never see the power of the Most High. Because they never learn to have faith. They never learn to get past their fears and their doubts and their insecurities. A lot of people can't get past what they can't control. If they can't control it, they're not going to deal with it. Those people never understand what this is about. And he takes their talent and gives it to somebody else who understands what sacrifice and faith really is. You understand so far? Read on.
Verse 30. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness.
That unprofitable servant that was controlled by fear, I don't want to deal with him. He's like, I don't want to deal with this person that's unprofitable. If you don't fight your fears, you are unprofitable to the Most High. Then what do I got you here for if you don't even want to fight your battle? If you're that person that always evacuates when things get hard, then why are you even here?
Wasting space now.
You're wasting space because you don't want to fight what's inside of you. You want to make excuses and you want to find the comfortable way. So if you want to evacuate when it's hard, it's best you go. You might as well kick rocks. He's explaining the dynamic about fear and how when fear cripples you and dominates you, you're no good to Christ. Do you understand? Okay, let that go and go to Joshua chapter 1 verse 9. Joshua 1:9. And somebody give me the 1828 ready.
You ready?
Yeah, read that.
Joshua chapter 1 and verse 9 reads, Have not I commanded thee? Be strong and of a good courage.
Now we understand why being of good courage is a commandment.
Now we know.
Because listen,
it's a commandment.
That's what he said. He said, "Have not I commanded you to be strong and of good courage?"
That's true. That's true.
You gotta stand up to your fear. You can't be afraid to lose. If you're afraid to lose, the Most High can't work with you. It's that simple. And too many of us operate in this scary space and wonder why things don't change in your life. He says, "Have I not commanded you to be strong and of good courage?" Read on.
Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed.
He says, don't be afraid and also don't be dismayed. Let's look up dismayed.
Dismayed, disheartened, deprived of courage.
Oh, there's another one, man. Hold on. Dismay.
Dismay.
Yeah, let's get dismay.
Dismay, to deprive of that strength or firmness of mind which constitutes courage.
He says to deprive of that strength or firmness of mind which constitutes courage. It meaning everybody faces fear. Everybody gets afraid. Everybody is afraid. So to be afraid is not an inhumane thing. It's not a weakness to be afraid. It's when you're afraid, do you have anything backing that initial fear to get you to stand in your position and fight back? He said a dismayed person doesn't have the constitution of mind to fight those thoughts, to fight the mind and emotions back. When things get difficult, his mind crumbles and he just heads for the hills. That's what being dismayed is. What you gonna say?
More in definition. A yielding to fear. That loss of firmness.
It's a yielding to fear. So he says to be dismayed is, we all face fear, but you yield to it when you're dismayed. You don't have any defenses and scriptures and experience to sit back here and fight those emotions and those negative thoughts when they initially hit you. So this is what being dismayed at. What equips you to fight back those thoughts of fear, those thoughts of giving up, those thoughts of heading backwards? That's what being dismayed is what constitutes you to fight back. Everybody feels that initial feeling of fear. That's why the Most High said in Proverbs 3:25, don't be afraid of sudden fear when it hits you. Because everybody gets it. Everybody gets that sudden fear. But what do you do after you get punched in the mouth? What scriptures do you have? What constitution of mind do you have to fight back? To retaliate when those thoughts start swarming on you? To keep you grounded and stable. And that keeps you chugging forward. Okay, read on.
Go.
No, in your definition.
Okay. That loss of firmness which is affected by fear or terror.
Yours is different than mine.
Well, there's two. I'm reading the second one.
To discourage, to dishearten, to sink or depress the spirits of or resolution.
He says to sink or depress the spirits of resolution. Meaning this, when fear hits you, that part of you that doesn't get dismayed gives you a solution to the problem. Gives you a spiritual solution.
You have a clear
to your
mind.
problem.
You separate yourself from the fear. Now you can be an objective problem solver.
Exactly.
You can't be an
But when you're
objective
dismayed,
problem solver.
you ain't got no solution.
When I'm absorbed into the sensation of the moment.
You can't think yourself through it. You can't think yourself through it. You can't counsel through it. You're just consumed with the fear of loss. So when you're dismayed, you're not thinking things clearly. You're only focusing on what I'm not going to give up, what I'm not going to lose, what I'm not going to sacrifice. Versus when you're not dismayed, you can pull scriptures, you can get counsel, you can take advice to help firm your resolve
and create an action plan, a spiritual action plan to make forward progression in your moment.
But that person who's dismayed, they just completely give in mentally
and fold.
And they fold and they just stay in their comfort zone and they don't think things through spiritually.
That's really down on the battlefield, on the spiritual battlefield.
Not.
Your body's alive, but your spirit's in a place of like the word "dead" also means to be inactive. So your spirit becomes inactive. You become an active man. That's why we talk about, we call brothers walking museums. When brothers quit their battle, they become like a perfect like they become time capsules.
A shell.
They become time capsules or a shell of that moment that they were in.
Mm-hmm.
They still have the same conversation. That like the truth is advanced. We've advanced past certain issues, bro. We've advanced.
Mm-hmm.
We've made forward progression. Right? Brothers are talking like it's like the snap era, bro. Where brothers, it's the white tea era.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying like brothers like
when Atlanta was hot, making music hot.
When we had the problems in the camp at that time period, never got past those problems. Listen, those problems got solved, bro. It just took time.
Yeah.
But their minds are still there, bro. Like a Vietnam veteran.
Yep.
That's what brothers that happens to men when they get absorbed into their moment and they don't take counsel, they don't study through it, or they don't pray the Most High through it, or they don't sit here and take a step back and reorganize their process, their thinking, and then address it from a different angle.
All we're trying to do, y'all, is explain where the battle is and how we fall, and how we run from our battle. And when we run from our battles, the Most High can't defend us, He can't protect us, and He takes away the talent we have, and gives it to somebody else because we're so afraid to lose. We're so afraid to lose, and that's what the title is. You're so afraid to lose, He's going to take away from you anyway, man, because you're afraid to have the faith to fight your fear. Okay, read Joshua 1 verse 9 again.
Come. Joshua chapter 1 and verse 9 reads, "Have not I commanded thee? Be strong and of a good courage.
Yeah.
Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed."
Don't be afraid, and then don't let your mind break down because of the fear. Don't let your mind erode because of the fear that's presented to you. Because it's one thing to be afraid. It's another thing to feed on that fear. And to, as a man thinketh, so is he. So that dismayed nature is when you start thinking about how this can't get done. You meditate on it, and it breaks you. Read on.
"For the Lord thy power is with thee whithersoever thou goest."
And this is the reminder that you have to have, whatever you're facing, whatever you are confronted with losing. Don't forget the Most High put you in this situation. And He wants you to go through it, not run from it. You are meant to face these scenarios that bring about fear. And all these scenarios that bring about fear are meant to get you closer to Him. Now, whether you gain or lose in the carnal fort shouldn't be more important than getting closer to Him. Getting closer to Him should be the only thing that matters. Once again, do you value that field that's on the other side of town? Or do you value what you have in your life? If I value this other field, then I'm okay with giving up these comforts to gain what's on that other side. You see how it all ties in? Okay. Read Jeremiah 1 and 17. Jeremiah 1 and 17.
Jeremiah chapter 1 and verse 17. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It says, "Thou, therefore, gird up thy loins, and arise, and speak unto them all that I command thee. Be not dismayed at their faces."
So what he's saying is, you're supposed to teach the truth to the people that He tells you to speak the truth to. And you can't be dismayed by their faces, by their disappointment, by their threats, by the rejection. He's telling you he's purposely putting us around people that are going to reject you. He says you can't get dismayed, you can't get affected because they're rejecting you. You can't get mentally broken down. What that dismay again? To be dismayed is to
sink in spirit.
To sink in spirit. It says
to deprive of strength or firmness of mind.
To deprive of strength or firmness of mind when you tell somebody the truth. The reason a person shrinks in firmness of mind is when you tell a person the truth and they end up telling you, you know, bro, I'm just gonna leave you. I don't want to live this life anymore. I don't want to live the life that you're living. That's how a person can shrink. That dismay comes sometimes when you stand up for what's right and the person around you doesn't share the same sentiment. That's a scary thing. You understand? But this is what he's saying. He said, listen, the people I commanded you to deal with, don't be dismayed at their faces, which means don't be dismayed at their reactions at you. You are going to lose standing up for what's right sometimes. Read on.
Lest I confound thee before them.
So let that go. We're getting later. I just want to get these scriptures in before we get out. Let's go to Isaiah 40 and verse 29. Isaiah 40 and 29.
Isaiah 40 and verse 29.
Y'all better should be getting these verses too. Come on, it can't just be one or two people reading. Y'all got to keep going. Isaiah 40 and 29.
He giveth power to the faint.
He gives power to the faint. If you fight,
he gives power to the man who, even though he's afraid, says, I'm going to stand on principle.
Tana.
See, people think the fear is going to be erased. It's not going to be erased. The fear is going to be there. The fear is the battle.
People think that people that are courage don't have courage and don't have
look,
fear. When you're courageous, you still have fear. You just choose to stand up and fight the fear versus being dismayed and be broke down by the fear and run opposite of the fear.
Fear is the condition.
Tana. And you're going to be afraid. And he says, I'm going to give power to the faint. So when you make the faith move, when you face what you're afraid of, he'll give power to the person who is facing that fear.
But people think they have to be empowered before they fight the battle.
And you got to be super confident going in.
Bro.
You're not going to be confident.
You're in the battle scared as hell out. And holding on to every...
And this is where I was going to say where the connection is. Because this verse, when I read this, the first verse hit me, when I am weak, I am strong.
Yeah.
This is what where do you think Paul got where I am weak, I am strong from? He got it from this.
Yeah.
Listen, all these things that Paul and Peter and these great prophets are talking about, they had a greater understanding of what was being talked about in the Old Testament. He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might, he increases strength. What does that mean? When I am weak, I am strong. When I am faint, when I am weak, when I'm afraid, I'm there with you.
He just shortened it and simplified it because he matched the understanding.
Exactly the point, Ike. So read verse 29 again.
Isaiah 40 and verse 29. He giveth power to the faint.
He gives power to the faint. So when you're sitting back here and you don't run from your battle, he's there. That's why he's so mad when you run off. You're like, I'm right here. Just stay. I'm right here with you. I'm going to give power even though you're afraid. Don't run. Read on.
And to them that have no might, he increaseth strength.
If you stay and fight when you have no might, he will increase your strength. But if you faint and you evacuate in the day of adversity, your strength is small because I'm not there with you anymore because you ran away from me. Don't evacuate. Participate. That was some religious BS right there.
People love that though.
Hell yeah. Oh. Don't evacuate, participate. It's ridiculous. But that's, What's that?
glove didn't fit, you must have quit.
You must have quit. And that was famous.
That's one of the greatest lines of all time.
Listen, that wasn't the case right there. That wasn't the case.
It didn't win. It didn't fit.
Listen.
Gotta make it rhyme.
So this is a whole time. And go to 2 Corinthians 12 and 10 out. If the glove don't fit. You know, and OJ, when he did this.
Yeah, he baby.
Can't put it on. I can't put it on. I can't put it on.
Like, he could have just done this.
He can't do that. He can't afford to that. Like, I can't do it. It's here.
He's widening his as much as he can to make sure it don't go on.
That's exactly what he did. That's awesome, man. Listen, 1 Corinthians, it's damn crazy, bro.
Second or first?
Second, 2 Corinthians 12. 2 Corinthians 12.
2 Corinthians 12.
And 12 and 10.
2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 10. It says, therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses, for Christ's sake.
All these things he's explaining. He takes pleasure in infirmities, reproaches, necessities, persecutions, distresses. All these things could bring about fear, panic, doubt, dismay. But instead of being dismayed, he takes pleasure in it. Because he understands that when I'm weak, read the next line.
For when I am weak, then am I strong.
He pulled this exactly from Isaiah 40 and 29. When I'm weak, the Most High is with me. When you're faint, the Most High is with you. That's what Isaiah said. Paul said, when I am weak, I am strong. Why? Because the Most High is right there with me. That's the understanding. This is how you gird your mind so that you don't get dismayed. When I'm in a vulnerable position, when I feel like I'm about to lose, if I'm doing things what's right, I have to know the Most High is right there with me, helping me. That's how I cleave to the Most High. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of cleaving to Him. You can't cleave to Him unless you're facing fear or loss of something. So you have to face loss to learn how to cleave to Him and trust Him. And not trust in the things that you love. The tangible things you love. You have to trust in that invisible power. But you have to face the fear to see the Most High with you the whole time. Sometimes you might lose things. Sometimes it's the threat of loss. Either way, the Most High needs to know, are you prepared to let it go regardless? Are you prepared to lose it?
Period.
Just like, we're not going into it, but just like with Abraham. He had to see, are you prepared to lose Isaac? Your son, your favorite, the one you had this great relationship with, who was a great kid. Are you prepared to lose him? I'm going to take you to the brink just to see if you're prepared to lose him. I wasn't going to take him away, but I need to know if I can take you to the brink and you can keep a good outlook towards me. This is how he does with us all the time. Are you afraid? Are you prepared to lose that what you love the most? To show the Most High you love Him more? That's how the Most High operates. And when He pushes you to the brink, that's how you show the Most High you love Him. Does that make sense? Okay. Let that verse go. But Isaiah 40 and 29 connects directly with 2 Corinthians 12 and 10. Give me Psalms. Give me Psalms 27 and 13.
Psalms 27 and 13.
Let me get it real quick. Psalms 27. We're almost done, y'all. Psalms 27. It feels later than 10:09, bro. I don't know about y'all. It really does. I feel like we've been teaching for like 3 hours, bro. But Psalms 27 and 13.
Psalms chapter 27, verse 13. I have fainted.
He says, he would have fainted. David would have quit. David would have evacuated the situation. He would have evacuated the premises. Read on.
Unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living.
What does that mean? He says, I would have quit and evacuated if I didn't believe the Most High was going to bless me in my lifetime. He was going to get me out of my situation in my lifetime. What does that mean? His faith, he was in the caves. He was catching hell. His life was at stake the whole time. He said, I would have quit if I didn't believe the Most High was going to get me through this in my lifetime. He was going to come through for me now. This was his mindset. This was his strength. And then we're going to see how this statement, we're going to go back to this. We're going to see how this statement matches with Matthew. Matthew chapter 10, verse 29 through 30. Matthew chapter 10, verse 29 through 30. I say Matthew 10? I don't think this. Oh, it's Mark. I'm sorry, it's Mark. It's Mark 10. Mark 10. Somebody read Mark 10, 29.
Come. Mark chapter 10, verse 29 reads, And Yahushua answered and said, Verily I say unto you, there is no man that have left house, or brother, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands, for my sake and the gospel.
He says, there's no person who stood up for righteousness' sake and faced the fear of loss and ended up losing something special to him or her for Christ's sake. Read on.
Verse 30. But he shall receive 100-fold now in this time.
Stop. In this time. A lot of time. This is no different than what David said. David said, I would have fainted if I didn't think the Most High was going to come through for me in my time, in my lifetime, through my adversity. Christ is saying the same thing. Everything you sacrifice and give up for what's right, for my name's sake, you're going to get it back on earth when you live out. You don't got to die to go to heaven out. You know what I mean? Because that's the thinking that we have. Whatever we lose here, we'll get it back in the kingdom.
You have to buy and buy myself.
Well, listen, Christ said, listen, man, everything you give up on earth, if you take a stand for righteousness' sake, you'll get it back on earth.
I bless you, God.
Just like David said, I would have fainted if I didn't believe that everything I'm giving up now, I wouldn't get back on earth. Don't forget what he lost. He lost his rib.
Yeah.
He was in the run.
Milka.
And guess what he got? He got it back.
McCall, yeah.
On earth. In his lifetime. The things he lost, he regained. And he believed that whatever I'm going through, whatever I've lost, the Most High will give it back to me in my present life. And he's saying the same thing in Mark. If you stand up for what's right, you stand up for righteousness' sake, you might lose something, but you'll regain, maybe not those exact people, but you'll regain what you lost in your present time if you have faith and if you don't operate in fear. So face your fear, face your anxiety, face your faith, and face your problems. Don't run from your problems and hit these pits and snares. Face them and know when you're facing the Most High is with you, and He'll protect you and bless you through whatever experience you're going through. Are there any other questions? We can go through some more, but I think we got the point. Any questions? All right, y'all. We'll have class on Wednesday, and we'll go from there, y'all. All right. Love y'all. Talk to y'all soon. Shalom.
Shalom.